I absolutely do love restorative yoga, and it was kind of a love-hate thing to begin with. The first time I did restorative yoga, I did not care for it. I wasn't in that headspace. I was more into the active styles of yoga. The slow meditative nature of restorative yoga just wasn't up my alley. But once I developed my practice a little bit further, I went to restorative yoga class again, and my response was, where has this been my whole life? It's just such a great practice, and it's kind of hard to learn that difference between active and passive stretching. But once you find it, it's amazing the depth you can get by not trying or not actively trying. Okay, so restorative yoga is a very prop-intensive class. We're going to be using blocks. So here's a nice foam block. These are great. They're good for supporting, for like a supported bridge. We have supported lower to the fish pose, all these different postures. I prefer a foam block as opposed to a cork block just because it's softer to relax into. Oh, straps. All right. I don't use straps a lot in my restorative yoga class. I know some people really do. They like to bind the legs and things like that. I find straps, it just kind of sometimes the amount of time it takes to get in and out kind of disrupts the flow of the class. But every now and again, I'm going to surprise you with a little bit of a strap. Blankets. All right. I love blankets. Sometimes I'll use 2 or even 3 blankets. I do have a version of this where we go through props you might have at home as opposed to expecting you to have all of these things. But a couple stout blankets. We love these Mexican blankets. They're fantastic. And you would be surprised how many ways we can use a blanket. Now, bolsters. We have a small bolster, also known as a pranayama pillow. These are great for spinal work, different supporting underneath the shoulders and the knees. So many different ways we can utilize one of these smaller bolsters. And then lastly, we have our large bolsters. It's just like rocking a baby. This is probably the one that we are going to use more than anything else in this restorative yoga class. I could really do a 60-minute class strictly based on a large bolster. So if you're going to make an investment into one prop, make it the big bolster. Everything else we can kind of improvise. All right, so what can you expect with the restorative yoga class? It is a ground-based practice. We are going to start with the seated warm-up where we're going to go through just kind of some of the major muscle groups, work our way down, get into a little cat and cow, just some stretching through the body, because believe it or not, in order to relax to all the different props, it actually takes a fair amount of stretching to prepare the body for this. So as we get in, once we've warmed up, we're going to come in, and it's a very meditative practice. There's a lot of time for like self-introspection, cultivating that inner body awareness, and we're going to hold these postures for a while, sometimes between 3 and 5 minutes, depending upon the posture that we're doing. So you just knowing that it's going to be, the mind is going to wander. That's also part of this practice. So you just want to make sure that, you're in a space where you can be present, and you're ready to kind of explore those deeper inner parts of not just your body, but your mind. Who is restorative yoga good for? Imagine that it is good for everybody. It's good for people that have maybe a more vigorous style that they're used to, that need to find that balance. It's really good for people that have issues with stress or anxiety. It's good for people who have chronic or really acute injuries. And people that are really looking to connect a little more deeper to their body and notice less of the superficial, more active styles, and really that cultivating that deeper level of awareness in your inner body. So restorative yoga as a practice is really good for tuning into the difference between active and passive stretching. People are good at active stretching. Everybody is. That's easy to reach, but to take all the different props that we have and hold the body in different ways and learn to lengthen and relax and release is a really challenging thing. We have these stabilizing muscles. We also have this innate fear, like the body wants to keep us supported and safe, and learning to let your body know it's in a safe and relaxed space and allowing it to open naturally can be really challenging. I often tell people restorative yoga is the most difficult class that we offer. And it takes time. No one is good at restorative yoga to begin with. It takes showing up again and again. And then we can also come into, we have a lot of stored emotions within the body. And when we can learn to open and release, sometimes there's an emotional release that goes with that. I found more depth in my practice by passive stretching than active stretching by far. So it is just such a great complement to more vigorous practice for anyone that's working through, pain or emotional trauma or anything like that. It's one of the best practices that we offer. All right, so you would think that lying on the ground on soft props there would be no contraindications or cautions involved, but there really are. I've actually seen people get hurt. So when you allow yourself to open and get that kind of depth, if you sit up really quick or roll off to the side, you want to take it, even when you're coming out of a posture, really, really slow. It's like, I once heard a teacher say, it's probably a little more different language than I would use, but they say like a flower unfolding. And it really is. It's that slow movement as we come out of things. And also it can be deceptively deep, when we're holding these postures between 3 and 5 minutes, and we were there for a long time, and we found that length. You want to make sure that you're honoring your body and you're not going past where you're comfortable. Any signs of like pain or discomfort, that's your body telling you you've pushed it a little too far. So there's a difference between finding that and that There's definitely a difference. So even with as mellow of a practice this is, there is still a chance if you push past your ability level to injure yourself in the process. I hated restorative yoga. Who's going to hate restorative yoga? A lot of people. And it's just because it's not what we're used to. When we think of yoga or any form of exercise, I hate to call yoga exercise, but it is. But when we start, working, we want to be active. We want to feel like we're doing something. So anyone that's going to come in with that mindset is absolutely going to hate restorative yoga. But if you can be aware that it's just a different style of practice, it's a different way to cultivate that body awareness. And it's such a deeper practice. So if you can come in realizing that you're going to have to do more inner work, and that passive stretching is harder than active stretching. Other than that, you should just absolutely love it.